Bonjour from the gate of Napa Valley, almost the gate of civilization. This is the version of Persepolis from Stag's Leap. This is where I am. We're gonna go and see our very good friend Darioush and the beautiful Chapar and discover what hides behind those incredible columns. This is where life starts, continues, where the dream of the past meet the present and bring you the future. Come with me. Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends, and welcome on JCB Live. This is a happy hour that is so special tonight that I have emotion, goosebumps, and the energy is centering me all the way down to my spine. We are where actually civilization started. This is where the gate of civilization began. We are with a man who did the impossible, came from one of those most amazing countries on the planet, you guessed it, Persia, came to the United States with nothing, lived the American dream, and became a tycoon in business, a tycoon for his community, and an unbelievable inspiration for the world of wine. He's created a temple of columns that is a place where you treat wine with the highest respect, and we're going to be together having a lot of fun. He has an irresistible wife named Chapar. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet the man behind Darioush, the king himself, Darioush himself. Are we ready to see him? Yes! Darioush!
Wow, you are very difficult act to follow.
No, not at all. So Darioush,
Yeah.
First of all, thank you. It's a great honor to be together.
Cheers.
To the love of life. And
You know, in the Persian culture, when you do that, you have to have a sip.
okay. If not,
But
what happens?
Yeah, that means sign I don't like you. You know?
Oh, so let's do it again. So Darioush, you represent an incredible sets of values for the American dreams. Tell us, how is life in Iran and how did you come here?
Yeah, you know, I am like you, the first generation immigrant, and as a immigrants, we don't take anything for granted. You know, many citizens born here, they take many things for granted, but we are not. So we have to work much harder and follow our dream. It just really was my dream ever since I was a child. When I was 6 years old, first time I tasted wine from my dad's cellar, and ever since I always wanted to do something with wine. And as you know, the Persia has a 7,000 years of history of winemaking, and there is a wine vessel in University of Pennsylvania which has a 7,000 years history, and inside is a residual of the wine. So they gave Persian the credit of being the first winemaker of the world. So I followed my dream. I became here and we started with a small grocery store just to get the green card and become a legal citizen. And then when I lost everything in Iran, I have to start working as a grocery man, my second career, which my first career was civil engineer. And then, you know, 25 years later, we had the largest chain of supermarket in Southern California, 41 locations from San Diego to Oxnard, privately held, of course, largest privately held. And, you know, I always had a dream. Every time I went to Bordeaux and I saw those people, the vintners, they have their own wine, they talk at the lunch in the restaurant, the Lion, I don't remember the name of the restaurant in near Pouillac. Lion d'Or.
Lion d'Or,
yes.
Of course, the golden lion.
The golden lion. So 30 years ago, when my wife and I, Chapar, came to Napa Valley to celebrate our 22nd wedding anniversary, we discovered Napa.
Yeah.
And ever since we thought, well, why we go that far to Bordeaux, you know, while we have Napa, such a beautiful, and then I start tasting the wines, and we fell in love with Napa. It took us a few years.
Yes.
22 years ago, we find this property, which used to be Altamura Winery, and the rest is the history.
So if we go back to history, you summarize it beautifully. Darioush, thank you. Explain the intensity of your work in Iran at the time was enormous.
Yes.
You had an incredible business that you were building. I remember your stories, even sleeping outside of your big projects, not having the time to go home.
Yes, yes.
And suddenly something happened.
Yes.
Give all of us the story of that, because no one can imagine what it is and what it is to start again from zero.
Yeah. Well, actually, 3 times I started from zero. And I hope it's the last one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but, you know, actually, the day that I graduated from Tehran Polytechnic as a civil engineer with 2 of our classmates, we formed our construction company. Our first job with the government was $100,000, and the last job was a $500 million.
Cool.
That we had several sites, 20 different sites, and Iran is a big country.
Yeah.
So I had a Range Rover with 2 drivers. They were constantly driving between the site, and I only was sleeping in the sleeping bag in the back of the Range Rover. After 8 years, I was 30 years old. We took a year of sabbatical and came to Redondo Beach, California, which my sister-in-law was living, Shahpar's sister. And I fell in love with the Palace Verdes. We bought a home. The money was coming from Iran, and we bought a small grocery store to get the green card. And then a year later, a revolution happened,
Yeah.
and I lost everything. They took my company, the real estate holding, and no money was coming anymore. So it was, I have to start it from ground zero again. And the rest that I told you before, yes.
Amazing. So, Darioush, we're drinking a wine in your honor. Give us the definition of Darioush, and who was he in history?
The Darioush the King, it's amazing that people think that my name is in the wine. Actually, it's not. It's Darioush the King, and in the logo of our wine has his picture, which is in the Persepolis. Is 2,600 years ago he built the palace.
Yeah.
Which when our designer suggested that we put the name of the wine Darioush after the Darioush the King, and designed his picture on the label, then we thought, our architect thought, maybe since the wine is the Darioush, maybe we should build the Palace of Darioush. So that's why we have inspired the building of the winery by Persepolis, which is near Shiraz, Iran, which I think Shiraz, as you guys say, the Shiraz come from, or you call it Syrah, come from Rhone, but Rhone has 500 years of history of the Syrah, but we have 7,000 years.
That's right. I will never challenge you on that one. I had the pleasure to go to Persepolis and see where civilization started. And I believe when you feel the way of history and the monuments and the power of the spirit still there, I think you believe that Shiraz is from Shiraz. Well, that's why we selected, Darioush, for you today. This wine we make in the Russian River. And Darioush is a fan of France as well. We see each other in France many times. And this is the emblem of the French king.
Oh.
The fleur de lis.
Yeah.
As you could see, the hat of the king, pre-coronation. So this is a DeLoach Blanc de Noir 2016 vintage. But Darioush, if we...
Can I afford to buy this?
No, but we can afford to offer it to you. But maybe you can make a loan. And you will.
We exchange.
Absolutely. So Darioush, when someone comes to the US like you have, with nothing. What goes through your mind, and what dream do you have at that time? And we 30 years ago now.
Yeah. Well, I think in many interviews in past, when they ask me, well, you're chairman, CEO of this big company, what is your role? I said, well, just recruiting and retaining people is my role. And that's my curtail, people. In our small winery, we have only 6,500 members. We don't call it employees, we call it members, because it's all family things.
Yeah.
I remember 6 months ago when they shut down the whole country and everybody was home, I sent a message to all the members that no worries, you get paid, you just stay home, you get paid, because this is the family. Family is in a bad time and a good time, you have to be together.
Yeah.
So yes, my things is people. And I'm so lucky, I'm always surrounded by good people.
So what do you attribute, besides people, your success in life in general? As you look back to each of those incredible phases of your life.
We had so much up and down. I remember we grew so fast within 6 years. In 1982, when the interest rate was over 18%. So, of course, since I didn't have money, we leveraged a lot, and we couldn't make enough profit to pay the interest. And we had 6 stores that time, and I had to sell 1 or 2 stores to just survive, and just never quit. At that time, somebody told me, you have enough, maybe you should quit. Quit is, I have not yet learned how to spell quit. So that's persistency, and I always say, well, this will also pass. Mm-hmm. We go to the next stage.
That's right.
Yeah, not quitting is very important part of the success of any businessman.
Where do you get your inspiration?
People, really, from the people.
Yeah.
When I see, in my grocery company, when I see the people that I hired, they barely could speak English. I sent them to night school and then later to college, and they become a vice president of the company and making a speech in front of 1,000 people. The satisfaction is there is no money in the world can return that satisfaction that you develop in the people.
Yes.
Even in our winery, almost everybody that has a management position at the winery, they did not start as a management position. Mm-hmm. They start in a lower level, and then they develop, developing people and working with people and let them know their potential.
Yes.
Show them their potential is my inspiration.
And on that note, you've been doing always so much for the community, whether it is in Southern California, whether it is up here in Napa, whether it is, I'm sure, back in the older world. What drives you to do so much for the community at large? We built, we had 41 locations in the worst economic areas of Southern California, or they call it ghetto, wrongfully. But most of the school around the store, they did not have a playground. They did not have a computer to learn. We put the golf tournament, we put all kind of charity and help them to develop the computer lab and develop the playing ground. And then I had that much note of the children that writing with their 2nd grade, 4th grade, and thank you note, and I kept those notes. And my granddaughter, sometimes they got hold of this and start reading and said, Papa, look at this. This is what
inspiration. And when I came here to Napa with the late John Schaefer, we started helping the Ole Health.
A brilliant.
Yes.
Maybe you want to briefly explain what is Ole,
because the only clinic in Napa that they never ask you any insurance or paper. If you have money, you pay. If you don't, that's fine. And most of the farm workers, perhaps, they don't have proper insurance or proper paper. Oh, thank you.
Maybe a little Chardonnay this time.
That's Chardonnay.
Yeah, I know you. You're more into the still wine than the bubbles. That makes more for Chapar later, because I know she likes bubbles. But we wanted to stay into the wines of the Russian River because we're going to be tasting your fabulous wine shortly. Yeah, so Ole Life is an incredible concept.
And we I'm on the board of director and vice chair of the board, and it's one of the most inspiring things that we have. Almost 1 out of 3 people in Napa, they go to Ole Hill, and mostly the farm workers. And then I'm involved, as you are. We are in the board of the festival Napa Valley, which one of the largest contributor of the Art for All. We raise money and we keep the art alive. Usually when they cut the budget, the first thing they cut from the school is the music.
That's right.
And we help the school. We buy the instrument for the student, and we help the school. So Ole Health and the Art for All, and of course, I'm also on the board of the Napa Vintners that also taking lots of my time, and as well as LA Philharmonic and other things. But it's good to, at this age, is paying forward time, and I'm doing probably more than 50-60% of my time now is for philanthropy. Yes.
And your philanthropy is health and culture.
Yes.
So health for Ole Life
Ole.
and the people in general in Napa Valley, and obviously music. Is music, as an example, playing a big part in your personal life? Are you a musician?
I love. Well, when I was a student in a high school, I played the violin. I love music. Still good hour or 2 hours a day I listen classical music and I enjoy it. It just takes me to the different world.
Yes. And I agree with you, seeing those young people being encouraged to be given an instrument, as we were together part of, and allowing them to play music and develop their minds into this other world that is so needed is a great satisfaction for sure.
Indeed. And the people who get involved, the student or young people get involved with music, it brings them another dimension that avoid them to get to the wrong direction.
So how did you get into wine as wanting to be a winemaker? You were a wine collector, as you said, and a big one from Bordeaux to Burgundy to Napa Valley. Why making this enormous step in your life to have a life in LA, a life here, and build an incredible destination?
When my wife, when I was touring my friends to my cellar of 7, 8, 9,000 bottles of wine, and he said, Darioush, it's cheaper to make your own wine than collecting wine. So
it came from that.
But not really. It's a passion. I always, in honor of my father, I wanted to make wine. He was making wine in a big clay vat.
Yes.
And fermenting and aging in the same place. And the berries, when they are fermenting, they are staying in top.
Yeah.
But after the wine being made, they slowly go down. And then my father was just using the scoop for the wine for the dinner. And I always put some wine in my water glass to have. So in Iran, that time, there was no age limit for wine.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the age limit for the spirit, but not for wine. So I grew up with wine and
Was it always on the table?
Yes, always.
Yeah.
Yes. Unlike, now the people think that Iran never made wine, or the people, they don't drink. I would say 95% of the Iranian, the Persian, are wine drinker and they drink. In fact, Ted Koppel has a program for ABC about 8 or 9 years ago, and he was interviewing a guy from Isfahan. He said, "So what changed after the revolution?" And the guy said, "Well, before revolution, we were praying at home and drinking out. But after revolution, we are drinking in, praying out."
Well, you know what I suggest? Let's go now after this DeLoach estate, organic and biodynamic Chardonnay. We should go inside your phenomenal winery, and would you invite us to your private cellar to try?
Absolutely. But tell me a little bit about your Chardonnay.
Well, what do you think of it?
This is wonderful.
You're the expert.
No, it's a barrel fermented, is it?
Barrel fermented. Yeah. This is our estate DeLoach.
And you're using Burgundy barrel?
Only French oak.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This is kind of a tradition. So we basically have the wood. Oak trees are 350 years old, cut out of the Tronchet forest. Medium toast, just the staves, not the heads. 2.5 centimeter staves. Very nice pores, so very gently the wine gets the flavor of the oak without any dominance.
Absolutely.
That's the idea.
Absolutely.
Fully organic.
I thought you brought the grape from Burgundy. From your vineyard.
But you know what we've done is we've done similar to the praying. We've brought some American oak to Burgundy in Burgundy wines and test how good is American oak on Pinot Noir, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, with Pinot Noir works very well.
Well, let's go now and maybe taste, and you could tell us as we arrive in the cellar the history of your vision for this amazing, I would call it the palace. So now, dear friends, we stepped out of the wonderful living room to go to the master private cellar. So Darioush, tell us about this amazing vision. Building, and dear friends, I want to say, Darioush, daring to build something of that nature in Napa Valley that has never seen a winery of that style and historical architecture, bringing the heritage of the true old world, was very daring.
But not only I wanted to make, I had a dream to make the world-class wine, but also brought the hospitality to the valley. We were the first winery, I believe, that have full-time staff of the concierge. And now we have 5 people in our full-time in our concierge service to take care of all of our customers, their hotel reservation, their restaurant reservation, the other wineries visit, everything that they want. So the hospitality is very unique that we brought from the Persian culture, which are famous.
Who has the best hospitality of all time? Well, talking about that, the aroma are calling from my nose.
Yes.
I could feel the wine who is whispering to my nostrils.
Cheers.
Thank you for receiving us in your private cellar.
Thank you. So this is our 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon. It's the grapes come from our vineyard in Mount Veeder, also around the winery. So it's a combination of the flora of the Napa and the mountain, the power of mountain and the finesse of the flow. And it's kind of Bordeaux style because we use Merlot and Cabernet Franc and Malbec sometimes and Petit Verdot. Not all the time, but this vintage we use it. It's aged 20, 22 months. It's all French oak that you can see in the cellar.
Magnificent.
Yes. It's drinking very beautiful. I'm very surprised the 2017 vintage. It was not really, the critics were not kind with that 2017, but it became one of my favorite vintage.
And which I like is the critiques and the intelligent one changed their mind and said now it's a wonderful, desirable vintage.
I always have philosophy when they talk about critics. And I said, well, the critics, they don't pay for our wine, but the consumer, they pay. So we make wine for the consumer.
That's true.
Not the critics.
So Darioush, tell us about how you conceived this so unusual winery for America that I adore, from architecture to, the conception of it, because this is so much of a building we should talk about.
Yes. Well, it is, as you can see, all the arches in the cellar, and the arches in my private cellar is and the arch invented in the Persian, and also Roman, they think the Roman arch, but we have a Persian arch, which was holding the weight of the building. So we use the arches for the holding the building, and the whole above this is all the concrete slab. So this is a very of the safest place to be if there is a bomb attack, because it's all concrete around you.
So you all know where to come. Not that it will happen.
Yeah, no.
And now tell us about the columns outside and the image of this amazing vision.
The history of Persepolis is that when built by Darius I, and then the Alexander came, the Alexander the Macedonian. I don't call him Alexander the Great.
I figured.
Alexander the Macedonian.
It's not that he came with his beach towel. He came with a few ammunition.
Yeah. And then 300 years later, when the Darius III was the king, and he lost the war, and he came and they burned Persepolis. They took all the golden horn.
Yes.
That's why you see those horses, they don't have a horn, because the golden horn was taken by Alexander.
Really?
And he burned the whole palace. And for thousands of years was under 20 meters of the ashes and the soil, the dirt. And then in 1936, German archaeologists, they were only one small column was showing on the ground. So they went 20 meters down and they discovered the Persepolis.
And which year was that?
1936.
So fairly recently, really.
Yeah. And those columns, which was holding the palace, stood for thousands of years and is still standing.
That's amazing.
So it's
the Persian engineering.
Yeah, the persistency of the column that inspired me, that we have 16 columns at the entrance of the building.
And is there a special meaning to 16?
Not really. Some people may think that 16 has a special meaning, but we originally was 20, and I couldn't afford all 20, so I cut 4 of them from the architect. So
and you put them inside, though. And how was it received when you open up as this incredible winery, Darioush, on the Silverado Trail?
At the outside of the building is traditional kind of Persian style, but when you come inside, it's totally modern. And the wow of the people, so far we have over 1 million visitors in the past 20 years. And always when they come first time, that look is is good to see.
Do you film people as they come in?
No. Yes. It received very well.
Yeah. So, Darioush, as you build your wine,
half the Persian is pistachio.
Yes, of course. It's quite exciting. So recently, with your beautiful wife, you've witnessed your son as well building a winery. So tell us about how you inspired your son to love wine and to continue as well your dream?
Well, when he, in about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, and it's a dream of every father to have his son to become part. And he came for a year or so and said that I want my own project.
Okay.
So we had that 30 acres land, vineyard in Okno by the Don Giovanni restaurant. And I said, fine, you can have it. So he hired his own architect, he hired his own winemaker, and I gave it, I turned the key to him and said, that's all yours. You built it, and he did.
Wow.
I'm very proud of him. He owns now that winery, and we both father and son. I'm in the gateway of the Silverado Trail, and he's in the gateway of Highway 29. So you cannot come to Napa without passing these two wineries.
Very exciting. And the name is?
Ashes and Diamond. Yes.
Very exciting,
Yeah.
and very groovy, I would say. Extremely fashionable in style.
Yeah. Diamond rise from the ashes, and the grapes rise from the dirt. So that's Ashes and Diamond. So the second wine that we are tasting, what do you think of the Cabernet?
Seductive, extremely sensual. And I love it because I'm a big fan of 2017. I find that vintage to be very suave, eloquent, and very smooth. Unusually smooth for a wine which is only 3 years old.
Yeah.
It's a child, it's a baby. Within the timeline of Persepolis, this is a baby.
Yeah.
So I'm agreeing with you. 2017, I feel, has enormous potential, and it has been hard to keep the 2017 in stock
Because it was a short vintage anyway to begin with, and then well, we can't wait till we release the 2018, which is another good vintage.
That's right.
Like the 16. Speaking of 16, the second wine that we are tasting is 2016 Shiraz.
Aha.
Yeah.
So did you bring the cuttings from the old world?
No, but I believe the cutting comes from the University of Davis, from Professor Olmos. I think he passed, and I believe it has something to do with the old world, but I'm not too sure. This is 100% Shiraz.
Yeah.
Shiraz is like Pinot Noir, doesn't like anything added to it. From the vineyard that right behind this building, we call it Kollar. Kollar is a Shiraz wine. One of the Shiraz wine is Kollar in Shiraz, Iran.
Really?
Yes. So we call that vineyard Kollar.
Kollar.
Yeah. It's the same method of winemaking as Cabernet Sauvignon.
Very elegant again.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Now, as we reflect to the world, Darioush, a deep question, as we tasting this wine, and we're going to go back to it. Where do you see the world coming in terms of not only the Middle East, but Iran, your home country, and what's happening, and what's your optimistic view of the future?
You have to remember, in Middle East countries, when you go back 50 years, for thousands of years, they never elected their leader. When they had a good leader, the country would prosper. Like Persia, when we had good king, the country would prosper, and when we had the weak king, the other country, they would come and capture.
That's right. And we know that well in France, of course.
And of course, it comes with the territory and dictatorship. I believe the world was in better position when all the dictators were intact, and they started with Shah of Iran 40 years ago, and when Shah, Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, Bashar Assad, all these dictators were there. Well, They were dictator, but the people, the country was all, and the world was in peace and everything.
Yeah.
They started even having relations with Israel. Iran was the only country during the oil embargo was selling oil to United States and Israel. But I don't know whether bringing democracy to countries that have 1,000 years of dictatorship.
How can you adapt?
It is. You cannot import democracy. You have to come within people.
Mm-hmm. And are you optimistic about the future that things will be able to level off in a sense that we'll be able to visit and you'll see a new Iran?
Yeah. I don't think in my lifetime would happen. Yeah. It's there are several movement of people. They brought demonstration of million people on the street, but those mullahs, they come with a machine gun and start killing people in the street. You saw it on TV.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the West really did not. Although it wouldn't be correct that any country interfered to the internal, also they did before. Anyway, I'm not optimistic about
Darioush, as a Frenchman, we welcome Persian when the revolution happened, the United States as well. I've had all my life great friends from Persia who I love, and they represent joy of life, happiness, family, and so much success. How do you account that? How do you explain always that approach and mentality?
I think the Persian is like a cat. You throw a cat in the air, they always land in their four legs. Yeah. So they survive. I'm so proud that I go, any hospital I go, I see the Persian doctors. Any law firm I go, I see the Persian. All second generation Persian.
Yes.
As you know, the Persian is we are part of Asia, although in Middle East they call it, they think it's another continent, but we are part of Asia. And Asian per se always encourage their children for the high education and study. So for that reason, we have so many educated doctors in NASA or anywhere. Any cities I go for the planning and things, I see a couple Persian engineers that are working there. So
that's phenomenal. Now, finally, Darioush, what is your dream at this stage? In a very broad spectrum. You've accomplished so much. You came from another nation to America, lived the American dream. What is your next dream as far as what you'd like to see happen?
Well, a personal dream and the worldwide dream that I have. The personal dream, I like, I have a daughter and son, and I have 3 granddaughters from my son and my daughter. And I like their, follow their dream as well and be successful. That's a personal dream. But worldwide dream, my dream is one day I see peace around the world, and the killing of the people. It just so. How many people were killed in the last 40 years? How many people lost their home? That's. It's no good.
Yeah.
My dream is to see the world peace, equality, dignity of the human being, where you're coming from and what color is your skin, and we're all human.
Yes.
So all life are matter really.
I'm going to drink to that. And now, Darioush, you always so wise. Always have a great message. As a final question, you have many great viewers, some who know you, some who discover you, and now they adore you, as all of us. What would be a message to everyone in the 21st century we live in the fall of 2020?
Well, I really love America.
Yes.
And I remember in 2008, I was honored to receive Ellis Island Medal of Honor.
Congratulations.
And thank you. When I was going through the aisle to receive my medal from the Marine, and both sides was 5 different armed forces music was playing. And I was thinking with myself, what a country.
Yes.
That welcoming people, immigrant like me, that we come here with empty hand, but mind full of idea and heart full of hope, to come here and they make it in here and they call it home. Really, God bless America. That's my last message.
You bring tears to our eyes. Darioush, thank you so much for welcoming all of us. And needless to say, I have nothing to say more. I have shivers in my back of excitement, and I echo, of course, what you say and your message of hope.
I'm sorry that I have to leave. It's very unpolite to leave the guest and leave it home, but I hope you understand. And
well, we're delighted to have the key. So when you come back tomorrow, the house will be in order.
You already have the key.
Darioush, thank you so much.
Cheers.